following program on Derana 24 is classified for general audience. It is intended for all ages. It contains little or no violence, no strong language, and little or no sexual dialogue or situations.
Good evening. You're joining the Business Best, and it is a platform for the best in the business and an opportunity for you to connect with innovation, excellence, and creativity as we introduce entrepreneurs and veterans from various industries. Are we in need of an educational system change? What do you think? My opinion is we need a new type of education for Sri Lanka. Independent collective school, the first formal democratic school in Sri Lanka, is to be launched very soon. And today we have the co-founder of ICS, Yasodhara Pathanjali, with us today. Thank you, Yasodhara, for joining us today
to
talk about this first formal democratic school in Sri Lanka. Tell us what it is. But to start off with, I would like to know who you are. Who is Yasodhara Pathanjali?
If anyone knows, please call me and let me know. Where do I even start?
We know you. You are an influencer, but just briefly tell us who you are.
In terms of work, artist, master life coach, bit of creativity in terms of being a designer and a children's author and all of those things. I think most people also know that I'm a homeschooling parent. Moved to Sri Lanka almost 7 years ago. It's coming up. And that's kind of my background. Actually, before I moved to Sri Lanka, I was in civil service and real estates and all of so much stuff, but that feels like another lifetime ago.
So you spent your childhood in another country?
I was born in the UK, so I was there till I was 32. So I had a whole life there, and then I decided to move here.
And what is ICS, that is your initiative, Independent Collective School, the first formal democratic school in Sri Lanka?
Yes.
What is it?
It's an opportunity, I think, to embrace all the different elements of educational developments that have been coming up. We all know that whether it's private or government or actually most countries, the standard education system is very outdated. Almost every country is currently grappling with how to change it. Prime Minister of UK the other day, just yesterday I think, announced that he's looking at creating a baccalaureate, a British baccalaureate. Most countries on a policy level are realizing that the education system is decades old, if not centuries old, and it doesn't serve a future forward population, because what we are teaching our kids today is what we taught them 50 years ago. It hasn't, even some of the books haven't actually changed. In terms of curriculum, there's very little.
Same textbook.
A lot of it, yeah. And if you don't, even where it has changed, now Sri Lanka normally changes their curriculum every 5 years. At the moment, it's delayed by a couple of extra years because of COVID and economic crisis and all of that. UK curriculum hasn't been updated since 2014, which is 9 years, almost 10 coming up. So the mechanism of education is very slow and stagnant, even though I'm sure lots of people like to say it's not. We are still teaching subject-based when all the research says that we need to be skill-based. And now we are starting to, this current generation who have graduated, so the people who are currently in their late teens, early 20s are the first generation who are seeing the issues with it, because there are no jobs for them, because their qualifications are outdated. Skill gap. There's a massive skill gap, and it's not just an issue for our young people to find jobs and satisfaction in life. It's also a huge problem for the employment sector, because businesses don't have the kind of skill, the kind of knowledge, the kind of discipline, you look at personal development, you look at all the different types of development, and we are actually not seeing young people in the job market already now, today, who are fit for the job roles that are there. So we are looking at...
But the paper qualifications are there.
Paper qualifications are
qualified,
there. Yes. Yeah, but qualified for what, right? So our kids who are schooling now will be facing a much wider gap in the next 5, 10, 15 years when they come into the job market.
True.
There's a great statistic that I love, which should horrify everybody. 2030 is only 6 years away, considering we're at the end of 2023 now. 86% of the jobs available globally in 2030, we haven't invented yet. 86% of the work that people
The
will
jobs
face,
or the people?
the
skills,
jobs, the 86% of the jobs that will be available in 2030, which is only 6.5 years away,
Yes.
we don't know what they are yet, because AI, technology, climate change is moving so fast that the world will rapidly change in the next 10 years, right? So if we don't know what those jobs are, why are we making our kids learn very outdated these subjects in a very outdated method to prepare them for a future that we don't know, right? So ICS, to try and keep it short, is an opportunity to really prepare your children for the future, and in a way that removes all the stresses, the harm that can come from the school system.
So Independent Collective School. Yes. It's the first formal democratic school in Sri Lanka. This term democratic schools, it's new to us, but it's not new to the world. If I'm not mistaken, the history runs back to 1600s.
Yes.
And you are going to form that first school in Sri Lanka in 2024.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. Tell us about your school. How is your school going to support or going to cater to this need of this skill gap?
So democratic schools, the idea has, as you said, been there since sort of 1690s. The first school came up in about, I think, 1800s in Russia. Leo Tolstoy started the school, which kind of falls under a similar thing. From 1920s onwards, there has been more of a movement globally. Currently, there's about 2,000 schools around the world.
Okay.
The global conference is next week.
We are yet to talk
after.
about it, yes.
And the idea of democratic education is very similar to democracy on a political scale.
Okay.
It's an opportunity for all participants to have an equal say.
Okay.
Because in democracy, all people, regardless of their education, their background, their wealth, they all get the same vote.
Everyone has equal right.
vote.
Yes.
And thankfully, all genders have the same vote now. So within a democratic school, or what can also be called a child-led school, the students also have a say in their education, in how the school is run, in educational decisions that are made, or school decisions that are made, right? Which is why you will never see me or my husband, we are the co-founders together, being called the principal, because we are just the co-founders. It was our idea to start it, and we created it, but we are definitely not the principal, because in a democratic setting, we will not have a principal.
But you will have teachers, facilitators coming in, and how are you going to recruit them? How are you going to look at the qualifications?
Yeah,
what are their
we are currently in a hiring process.
Okay.
I've kept it kind of slow for now because, in the current economic state that Sri Lanka is in, people want jobs tomorrow. So if they get hired, they want to start working tomorrow.
True.
And for a school opening in January, that's a little bit of a gap. But we've started collecting some really interesting, very diversely qualified people. That's something I'm very passionate about because, you get the emails from the maths teacher, the IT teacher, whatever. But we are a project-based school, so we will not have subjects in the classroom.
Okay.
So no child will be going to their maths lesson and then the history lesson and then the PE lesson, because it's all projects. And projects can teach everything in one go, or multiple things in one go.
Okay.
So we need facilitators in the school who can think like that, who are not just limited by
children
things.
Whom they can look up to.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So yeah, we're in a slow but steady process of hiring and training. There are 2 levels of training that I'm trying to ensure that all our staff go through, which is the American PBL certification, which is for project-based learning, how to deliver that, how to create projects, how to design them effectively, and how to deliver effectively. And then my extra layer of training, which is more about the democratic and nurturing education that we need to provide.
How does a child benefit from this democratic school? Of course, the qualified teachers and so forth. And this system, how will it benefit the child? Let's talk about this process in detail.
Okay. Firstly, what happens in a conventional school is that pretty much every decision is taken away from the child, right? The parents decide the school, which we can't change. They go into the school, they're given the timetable. This is what you will study.
Yes.
This is when you will study. And
They have no say.
This is how you will study, right? Now, when it comes to this is what you will study, there are a certain, regardless of the child's preferences, there are certain skills and knowledge that is absolutely vital for their success in the future. We have to understand that. But different children develop at different speeds. So just because there is a set of knowledge and skill that will be useful for them in future, it doesn't mean they have to learn it when we tell them to learn it, right? So one of the things that with my children that I noticed was I tried to teach my older one to read and write when she was about 4.5. It was a huge failure. She was just crying all the time. I was getting stressed all the time. And I was like, why, she's of the right age. There are plenty of other children who are 4, who are reading and writing, and, they're doing great. And my one is just refusing. And I was stressed out. She was stressed out. And eventually I just thought, what am I doing? Like, both of us being stressed out. She's not learning any quicker. I'm actually making it worse. And I realized, thankfully I realized this. But then you look at you look at the same child, just gave her a bit of space, a little bit of time, and she picked up effortlessly. No tears, nobody was upset, I wasn't stressed, she wasn't stressed. And now she's 13. What difference does it make whether she learned to read and write when she was 4.5 or at 5? Because what matters is that she can today, right?
Yes.
And we have this rat race to get our kids ready for the workplace. But we start at 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 even. Why? You give them that year, and what you get is a far more accomplished person, a far more experienced, interested, engaged student who's not stressed.
Sorry to interrupt you, Yasodhara. We have to go in for a short commercial break, but it's getting really interesting. I'm yet to know about what this project-based learning and progressive education is. We're going in for a short break. See you after this. You're joining the Business Best, and we are talking about the first formal democratic school in Sri Lanka, ICS, Independent Collective School, and we have Yasodhara Pathanjali, the co-founder of ICS, with us today. And Yasodhara, we were talking about this progressive education where you see a lot of improvement in a child. We are not stressing them to learn something, we are not pressurizing them, but we are giving them time, freedom to learn things. So, is this your school?
Yeah, well, I think the key
is this
there.
The system?
This is it is. It's this approach where getting the child to be engaged. Because in mainstream school, what happens is we're trying to pour the information or the skill into almost like an unwilling participant, right? They don't. If you ask a child, do you wish you were in school, or do you wish you were in that classroom doing a maths lesson? Quite a lot of the answers are going to be no. Yeah. I wish I was doing something else. But how is it, lots of parents complain, you can remember the lyrics to that song, but you can't remember your, multiplication tables, and you can remember all the names of the boy band, but you can't remember
cartoons and everything, the dialogues and everything.
Right, right. So why is it that there's a difference in retention and, getting more deeper learning in the areas that children enjoy? And forget children, we are the same. If we really enjoy something, we remember, and if we don't, we don't. So why can't education then teach in that way?
In an enjoyable way.
Because if a child is engaged and they're interested, now something I really love is, because my kids are homeschooled, they ask me the most amazing questions all the time. But because they experienced something, the questions popped up in their own mind, they were engaged in that, and then they came to me for the learning, they remember it more. because they wanted to hear it. And if you look at all the statistics that come from sort of alternative education, if you just look at a very basic, traditional way of looking at things, the university entrance proportion from an alternative experience, and particularly democratic experience, is the same as a mainstream one. So there is no change. There's no negative aspect to it. It's just that the children who come from this kind of background don't also suffer burnout. And burnout is one of the biggest problems with conventional schooling, because you go through the stress of your exams, everything. You've spent your childhood being stressed and pushed. And in an environment where you have no say, you have no autonomy, you have no kind of freedom, and then you come out of the other side and you burn out. And then you get, 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds even, who just crash. They struggle in their careers and in life in general and all kinds of things.
And they're lost sometimes.
And they're lost.
They don't know what to do.
They don't. And what's sad is that parents actually put them through that with the best of intentions, because they want to prepare them for the future, but they're taking away from that future in that preparation process. So what this school is actually just saying, we can guarantee the future, but we can also make sure that the child has the best childhood and educational experience, but because the education will be the same. And now we just got our Cambridge registration a few days ago, which
so the students will be assessed.
It's still the same education. It's just they'll be happy. And how can you argue against that?
Okay, so how does it work? So give me an example of, let's say, you were talking about this project-based learning. How does it happen?
So if we take, even you and I sitting here, what if 2 kids in my school were to do this? Let's have an interview, right? So in order to prepare this space in the school environment, if we call this the project, right? There is an English element in the writing and the communication that we are having today, right? In you writing the questions, doing the research, right? This research knowledge or knowledge of learning in having to do the background work. There is photography, there is lighting, which is electricity and physics. There is so much stuff, fashion, what should we wear against this backdrop? What is suitable, right? You can literally pull out so many different elements from a scenario and create education out of it. Because if we tell kids to put this up, they'll have to learn a lot. They'll have to learn safety, health and safety. They'll have to learn a lot. So as a school, what we're doing currently, this is why I have no time to myself anymore. I'm actually creating the first 6 months worth of projects. And one of the key areas of my school is that we are very transparent. So when a child comes to our school and they undergo a project, which is what I'm designing at the moment, I'm also creating a section so the parents can go, oh, why has my child spent the whole day today,
they can question
doing... Yeah, why
but
have
not
they
in the
been...
mainstream education, we can question the teachers or the principal or the school.
Right. So
they can directly come and meet you, they can come to the school and
they can come and WhatsApp me, email me, call me, whatever, and say, hey, my child spent the whole day climbing a tree. I don't know, that's unlikely to happen, but like whatever, right? And what's the point? Am I paying you for this, right? And everything that we do in school is currently being designed to say, well, actually this activity taught them this subject, these skills, and this is how we assessed it, and this is how we know whether it was impactful or not. And all parents will be able to access that. So there'll never be that thing of like, oh, I don't know what they're doing in school, like it all seems crazy. So that accountability, the transparency is something very, very important at ICS. Parents, I think somewhere along the line, schools have overtaken from parents as the most important person in a child's life, but we really believe that it's the parents. We come secondary. So any parents have access to the school property. There's no like drop off at the gate and you're not allowed.
Don't wear this, don't wear that.
Don't wear this. Who are we to tell a parent what to do? There's no hair cutting policy, there's no uniform, there's only a little bit of guidance about what's appropriate for
school. Which is a cost reduction.
Massive cost reduction. No school shoes, no school bags, no admission fee, there's no initial outlay.
Donation?
Nothing. It's just whatever we have laid out. It's already on the website. It's all very transparent, and the school fees include, in essence, there's a cost reduction on no tuition fees, no extracurriculars, because we are bringing all the extracurriculars into school.
Okay.
The only things we don't include at the moment is meals, transport, the Cambridge assessments, and extra daycare hours. So if you need as a parent more than the 6 hours, obviously you'll have to pay extra for a few more hours, and that's it. But we're very transparent about all of that, and that's very important.
Okay. So you're going to design this curriculum for the child. So is it going to be age-wise, or let's say, for example, a 10-year-old enters your school.
Yes.
So what's the process from the mainstream education she's coming in?
Yeah.
So what's the process? What's the procedure for her to start with you?
Okay. So every child at ICS is getting personalized curriculum.
Okay. You're going to assist them? You're going to like sit with them and do an assessment?
Right.
Okay.
That will be pre-enrollment actually, because we like to have on enrollment, the child should be able to go straight into what they're doing.
Okay.
So there needs to be a certain amount of conversation with the parent to understand where they come from, and where the parent sees, because at the end of the day, the parent knows best. I think we've stripped that away a lot in education, but I do believe the parent knows best. So the parent will know, my child has a lot of interest in this, is very lazy in this, is struggling in these areas, but very strong in these. And because we don't have a grade system in the school, so there's no grade 1, grade 2, etc., we will not be holding a child back. Because a lot of schools hold children back because of their age. So if a child, let's say, is very advanced in English, let them continue that way, because if you let them continue at their speed, they stay engaged. I went to primary school for 2 weeks when I was small. I was also homeschooled, so it was a very rare 2 weeks for me. And I remember I enjoyed certain parts of being in school. It was a novel experience for me. But then when I went to the maths lesson at year 3, they were adding simple numbers together. And at that point at home, I had already been doing algebra and geometry. So this was just insanely boring to me, right? And I remember just that time would drag and drag and drag. So why would we create that for a child, right? So firstly, creating the personalized curriculum. The whole thing is underpinned by the Cambridge curriculum, because that's what we are.
Yeah, the assessing body.
Yeah. Adding to that, we have the parts of the local curriculum to bring the local flavor. And that's kind of important from the Cambridge thing too, because they have this thing called global perspectives, and it's important that we add that voice. And then on top of that, we have a panel of subject matter experts who will be bringing cutting edge knowledge and information to the school. So as I said before, there's like almost a decade turnaround in national curriculums. Ours is 4 months. So we are updating our curriculum every 4 months, which means all our children will be getting the most cutting edge knowledge from our panel.
Okay. And Yasodhara, you are part of the International Democratic Education Conference 2023. Tell us about it.
So I'm going to Nepal in 2 weeks' time. Where it's
on the 15th October, right?
It's for a week, starting on the 15th. So I'll be talking about mitigating parents' fears into the democratic, because I think something new is always kind of scary, and when you are talking about your child's future, it's very scary. So I'll be talking about how we mitigate that through the ICS journey.
Okay, nice. And tell our viewers how to connect with you if they're interested in having their child in your school. How can they connect with you?
We have the website, so it's www.theicschool.com. Even Google search, it all comes up. Our social media is there. There's a WhatsApp number, so drop a WhatsApp and we can help you. The team will help you.
Thank you very much, Yasodhara, for being on our show, and all the very best with your future endeavors. And yes, we were in conversation with Yasodhara Pathanjali, the co-founder of Independent Collective School, the first formal democratic school in Sri Lanka. I will see you next week. Have a pleasant evening.